Michelle, how are you? Michele Capots from the USA, and we're both members of Global Mental Health Peer Network,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Amazing. Which means we call ourselves, Claudia. We joke about this. So I call we're the experts on madness, right? So because we've experienced it ourselves, so lived experience mental health. So it's fantastic to be talking to you.
Thank you. It's good to be talking to you.
So Michelle, like lived experience mental health is different than most of what we hear in the news or advertised. And it's our journey, our own journeys with depression, myself with bipolar disorder or whatever, even psychosis. You've had your experiences, and those experiences made us want to create change. And how does Michelle create change?
So, a lot of the work I do is around self-stigma and self-worth because after a mental health diagnosis, and I had gone through a depression where I lost all self-confidence and self-worth. And then several years after that, or during that time, I was found hitchhiking on a busy interstate in Tasmanian devil boxer shorts, a t-shirt ripped all the way up to my left breast, barefoot with my dog beside me who wasn't on a leash. The kicker to that is I never left the house without my 5-inch heels. So it was very difficult. And after that experience, I let my own mental illness define me. It diminished my self-worth. It was all I thought I had to offer. And that self-doubt and low self-worth and self-stigma spilled into every area of my life, from the relationships, the men that I was attracted to the jobs that I sought for employment, to my personal relationship with friends and family, because I didn't have the belief in myself that I could go after what I wanted, that I could have what I wanted. Um, and as I said, that spilled into every area of my life. But then after
Yeah.
doing some of the work that I do, I realized that I was never broken like I thought I was. It was an innocent, I was never broken. It was only my perception that was broken. And when I was able to realize that, that is when my life started to change. And that's what I try to help others with, is realizing that, is overcoming that self-stigma and realizing that it's the perception that is faulty. It's the perception that needs to be changed. And when you're able to move past those limiting stories that you've told yourself, that is when things in your life can change.
You said about something about finding yourself on the interstate highway hitchhiking. I'm still hitchhiking. I'm still hitchhiking,
Okay.
and that's that, you spoke about stigma and self-stigma, and I can definitely confirm. I mean, the reason why I'm still hitchhiking is stigma, but the reason why I was stuck in my life was self-stigma. So now I'm not stuck in my life. So I'm no longer dealing with self-stigma, but I'm still dealing with stigma. So I'm still hitchhiking. So anyway, I think both, I've spoken about this before on multiple occasions, and I say actually self-stigma is worse than stigma. because like self-stigma is what stops you from moving forward. And also because you start associating yourself with certain symptoms and you're living in fear of those symptoms, and therefore you're literally stuck. So you're doing a program which we are offering, and I'm so excited about this more than anything else because it helps people who are stuck in self-stigma. How do you do that? Like, what's the method? Like, what is it that you kind of, what is the perception that you change? You said this is about changing perception. I'm going to tell you later about how I changed my perception, but I would like to hear it also from you. Like, how would you do it through that coaching program?
Some of the things, um, again, it's self-stigma and it's self-worth because in
Mm-hmm.
my experience, in my own experience, and some of the work I've done with the people I work with, they're intertwined because that low self-stigma wraps into your beliefs about yourself and it chips away at that self-esteem. It chips away at that self-worth. And I agree with you. I mean, there's a big difference between stigma and self-stigma. And stigma is an
Out of
ongoing
our
battle.
control.
What'd you say?
Out of our control. It's imposed on us, right? So it's external. Yeah.
But self stigma is something that we definitely have control over. But again, I agree with you that it can be more debilitating because it affects your beliefs in yourself. So it's not just self stigma, it's self esteem, it's self confidence, it's self worth that
Yeah.
I work on with people. And there's not, the program that I've offered through you is a 1 month program, and I can't say I do this and boom, it's gone. It's um
Yeah.
it's a process and it's an ongoing process. And there's different sessions that'll delve a little deeper into your own thoughts and really examining what it is that you believe, because it's going to be different for everybody. But it's those stories that we tell ourselves. And a lot of times with those stories, we reinforce them. So, neuroscientists have found that it takes 90 seconds for a feeling to pass through the body. Anything longer than 90 seconds shows that we're looped in the story. And a lot of times that's what we do. And that's what I did is reinforce the story. You put a label
Mm-hmm.
on yourself and you reinforce the story over and over and over again. But the body knows how to naturally digest something if we're not
Mm-hmm.
mentally interrupting it all the time. So if we were to feel that low self-worth, if we were to feel it and not try to run away from it or to reinforce and loop in the story about it, but allow ourselves to truly feel it and let it be there, that is one of the first ways to break free from it.
You know, it's really interesting, Michelle. You speak about that, pattern of repetition. We keep saying the same things to ourselves that we convince ourselves. So I convinced myself and I fit myself into all the symptoms of bipolar disorder for 3 years. And then I was able to say, I don't have actually to create another story. And you're probably aware more than anything. I created a new story where I said, I've been subjected to human rights violations and misdiagnosis. And therefore, none of these symptoms actually really fit me. And how do I want to be as a human being is where I want to focus my energy. So I changed and I created a new name for my illness. It was, before it was bipolar. So I created this name called heptapolar, which means 7 dimensions, right? And literally, I changed the word and literally it became my state of being. I was able to withdraw from psychiatric drugs and to say that I'm healed. Yes, I was for sure going through something mentally and emotionally, and maybe it was an illness, maybe it was not, right? But I was not well at that time. But then when I said I want to be well, I became well. And then I no longer have any of those symptoms. So the reason why I told you I'm very excited about your program is because I know there's a lot of people that have been misdiagnosed as well. So this is an opportunity for them to speak to you and reevaluate themselves against these symptoms and against their. So does that even help with that? Like, because we are members of Global Mental Health Care Network, and we do advocate the right information. And I truly believe, and I know for a fact here in my country, Lebanon, there are hundreds and thousands of people that are misdiagnosed, whether on the influence of drugs, for example, with bipolar disorder, okay, or during specific periods of their time when they were not well and they acted in certain ways. They could be like even having a drug-induced psychosis, and they were diagnosed with a mental illness. And I say people should reassess their situation, especially if they feel well and stable. So how can we help them in that re-self search?
So I think there's two things that popped into my mind while you're sharing, and one of the biggest is, all I do in my experience in my coaching is share my experience. With lived experience, I can share my experience and what has happened to me as it relates to helping somebody else. But I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, and I don't necessarily know what medications or what symptoms. All I can share from is my experience. And for me, my self worth, my self esteem, my low self confidence was all triggered by my own mental health diagnosis, my own experience. But it can be different for a lot of different people. Um, I think that I agree with you that it's the stories we tell ourselves, and thoughts are the stories we make up. Thoughts are the stories we tell ourselves, whether that's my boss doesn't like me or whether that's I am bipolar. It's a story that we tell ourselves. And I am a big believer that, for example, I'll never say I am bipolar because what we put on the other end of that, we tend to embody, we tend to take on. So instead, I will say, I'm someone who has bipolar disorder. And just that
Yeah,
little shift makes such a big difference. So the fact that you used, I am hectopolar, you no longer identified with being bipolar, and that as a result changed your symptoms, changed your feelings because of what you labeled yourself.
absolutely. Michelle, I have a funny self-stigma story. Okay.
Okay.
So people who are diagnosed or associate with bipolar disorder have a symptom called hypersexuality and promiscuity.
Mhm.
Okay. So I was a member on a Facebook group for bipolar disorder like support group, And basically, every Monday was Selfie Monday. And this is where all the promiscuity comes out, and all all the sexuality comes out. And the reason why I said this, and why I say it's a funny self-stigma story, because people who associate with bipolar disorder associate with promiscuity. So they believe they cannot have relationships with others, nor have love without cheating. And, like, and I think this is one of the things that, maybe I've associated with, but then I realized that no, it's got nothing to do. We all have control over what we can attract into our life, especially love, and what we can say no to. And if that is promiscuity, for example. And these are choices, like these are choices that I made also in order for me to change my life. I'm like, no, I don't associate with it. I don't want to call my sexuality hypersexuality. I'm a human being with a sexuality like every other person. And therefore, I am in control of how I direct this energy. So for me, I choose to direct it now. We speak reconnect, love, empathy, and human connection. And I choose to do that also in my relationship. So for people who do associate with maybe such symptoms as well, or, these are not symptoms, these are choices. And I think we all have control over our symptoms, if they are symptoms, and over our choices if they are our choices. And I think this is one of the things you also help with, Michelle, is how do we bring what we perceive as symptoms under management, correct?
Um, I don't necessarily work with symptoms of our illnesses. I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase this. I don't necessarily work with the symptoms of our illnesses. I can work with, again, the labels. So, like you just said, with the hypersexuality, when you identify with that, when you believe that, when you identify with that label, if you will, you're going to act a certain way. When you
Exactly.
agree, when you believe that, when you accept that, when you identify with it, you're going to act hypersexual because you're agreeing, you're labeling yourself as
Absolutely.
that. And
Mm-hmm.
as soon as you said, you change the label, you're
Mm-hmm.
not identifying with it anymore. You are a human being with
Mm-hmm.
desires or sexuality just like anybody else. When you accept that, and acceptance is really the biggest key and has been the biggest thing for me in my entire journey. But when you accept that, then your behavior is going to change along with it. So, what you're labeling
Absolutely.
yourself as is going to affect the outward experience that you have. So, whether that's the symptoms you're expressing, um, when you label yourself with it, you're going to identify with whatever it is that you're labeling yourself.
So what I also dropped. So I dropped out of that support group because I realized that everyone is normalizing symptoms. And I told you they used to do selfie Mondays, and it was all about hypersexuality. Now we do manic Mondays, so we raise awareness about these topics, and it's amazing, Michelle, to have you also as a member of Global Mental Health Care Network. You're based in the U.S., right? Which state are you in?
I'm in Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C.
Yes, you asked me also about the program. So what we are doing, and this is part of the recording, so what we are doing is making really like awareness content related to every single program that is being offered, right? So that's why now we're going like one by one. Today you saw probably Saga Performance, the day before Love Coaching, etc. And what's going to happen next is, Michelle, is that we're building in parallel like a virtual presence, right? So these, although now we're saying, so this is for a month, but then it will go on as long as we want it to. So we're going like a bit one by one, and I'm also in talks now with the Illumination Center in the UAE and VOS and stuff on how we can ensure that this content reaches like the maximum audience possible. So I'll keep you updated, but it's really exciting to have you, Michelle. And I really look forward to, people talking to you. Are you open? Like, are you also open if somebody wants to get in touch with you to have an initial call or maybe to understand how you can help them out? Like maybe an intro call for like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I don't know. Do you do that as well?
Absolutely. I can do a 30-minute, I could do a 30-minute clarity call, I call them. So it's
Yeah,
just a call to make sure that the program is the right fit for them. So to
absolutely.
sort of talk through what I offer and make sure that it is a good fit for them. Absolutely. And that's free. And that's 100% free.
Look, that's fantastic because especially when I didn't ask of any of the other experts and coaches, but I'm asking you why because I know that stigma and self-stigma are very delicate topics, and people want to always feel comfortable talking to their coach before like just buying a program. So I'm glad that you have that. We will also communicate it to make sure that whoever wants to get in touch with you can do so prior to deciding if they want to buy that package or not.
Absolutely. I think it's really important. You want to make sure that it's a good fit. You want to make sure that you're comfortable with the person that you're going to be working with and that you can develop a trust or relationship with them. So that's really important. So absolutely, absolutely, I offer that.
Look, absolutely. When you talk about trust, I mean, sources of information and, being members of Global Mental Health Peer Network, we know how much misinformation there is out there. We know how, like I call it the speed diagnostics. There's speed diagnostics happening when it comes especially to psychiatric institutions. We know that people get diagnosed with, one session after a 15-minute conversation. So, for sure, trust is an issue when it comes to people, going and talking to mental health experts or advocates or coaches. So it's great that we have that amazing combination between lived experience, the right information and advocacy through Global Mental Health Peer Network, and also your qualifications as a transformational coach who once hitchhiked. And same like I'm still hitchhiking for mental health and wellness. Because I could get a job. Everyone tells me go get a job, Roger. I'm like, I'm not gonna get a job. So yeah, I think once we've experienced this, we wanna have impact on people's lives. So I'm happy that we do, and I'm so honored to have met you and being members of one big family.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you so much, Roger. And again, it's for me anyway, it's my own beliefs about myself that that experience, the hitchhiking experience, and others just like it, that that limited me from going after my dreams or believing that I could have the things that I wanted in life because I put myself in a box. I took
Mm-hmm.
my mental illness and I put myself in a box that this is what I was capable of. This is what my life would be about.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, and I didn't know that I could get over here. I was over here in this box down
Yeah.
here, and I didn't believe that I could get up here. I
Yeah.
didn't believe in myself. So I love what I do, and I love working with others to help them realize that they can get up here, that they
Mm-hmm.
can get out of the box and move past their beliefs about themselves and their illness and what they're truly capable of.
You know, I'm going to tell you what my hitchhiking experiences are teaching me now. They're teaching me how to save money, save costs, save time, meet new people, and get in touch with kindness. Because, you know, sometimes I'm hitchhiking because like the road doesn't have taxis, or, you know, like, or I don't have money or whatever. I mean, we are in a place where in Lebanon where the economy has collapsed. So access to money is very limited through because of banking restrictions and all. So sometimes we really find ourselves having to hitchhike or ask for help, and a lot of people are helpful, which is always great. And for me, hitchhiking is showing me a lot of kindness from a lot of people. And you know, when people stop for you on the side of the road, is because they felt, you know, you needed that lift to get somewhere. So it's empathy, right? And we speak a lot about empathy, and that's what I believe people will receive from Michele Capots.
Thank you. Thank you very much,
Amazing.
Roger.
Thank you so much, Michele.